Hello, one and all, and welcome back. Yes, back to the Great Unknown Audio Show with me, your illustrious host, and most appropriate face for radio, Maxim Jennings, as we continue this monumental mountainous adventure through the holy land of New Zealand. Another day, another crazy activity that I'd never done before. This time involving white water rafting. Something that is very much heavily marketed and advertised all over the world for tourists alike to enjoy. But I thought, hey, we're in New Zealand, why not give it a go? And give it a go we did as we went down the Kaitanaki River just outside of Rotorua, which is where we're staying, which is a geothermal hotspot. And in certain parts of the town smells very much like gone off popcorn combined with a heavy dosage of salt and sulphur. So not the most pleasant of smells in some of the areas, but that geothermal essence provides a lot of energy for this area, and also makes lots of the water in the vicinity very warm, and so there's a lot of spas and hot pools and whatnot floating around everywhere you go. But anyway, back to the whitewater rafting activity. I was the only person in my group who decided this was going to be an activity of choice. So I was picked up at around 8 o'clock in the morning. Lovely start to go to the rafting place. Was met by some lovely staff. Really interesting conversations with some of those people. One of the guys had been an extra and in a couple of different TV shows. How we got onto that topic, who knows? And was meant to do some work with Tom Cruise in one of the Mission Impossibles, but that got cancelled because Tom Cruise likes doing his own stunts and didn't have a New Zealand helicopter license to fly the helicopter. So he just said he wasn't going to be in the scene if he couldn't fly the helicopter. That's A-listers for you folks. If they don't get what they want, they're not going to be doing it at all. Whereas I don't get what I want 95% of the time, and oh god, life is so hard, I just do it anyway. Anyway, so we got to the rafting place at around 9 o'clock, an hour on the Kaitanaki River, which in hindsight was probably enough, but at the time I was like, only an hour? Okay. But I was joined by a Latino family from Uruguay, and obviously dabbled in my Spanish again. It just seems like it's coming up Millhouse for me to practice a bit of my Spanish, and the mother was very impressed that I'd managed to learn all that two sentences of Spanish in my 3 months of being there. And I was like, oh, thank you very much. And she went, a friend of hers was in Uruguay for 2 years and didn't learn anything. Well, I asked where they were from, and guess where they said? America. Well, is that all you need to know, or is that just me being harsh? But nonetheless, my team of choice, the Latino family, we got on perfectly well and descended on the rapids, which also included the world's highest commercially rafted waterfall at between 6 and 7 meters. One of the guys said 7, the other guy said 6. I'm going to say it's closer to 6, but it's supposedly the highest commercially rafted waterfall. And you're thinking, 6 meters, that's not that bad, that's not that high at all. Yeah, it was pretty intimidating. So there were 3 waterfalls on the course, and you're in the raft, and you don't really have to do much. You paddle forward when he says paddle forward, and there's a few positions you have to learn, especially when you go down the big waterfall, to make sure you try not to flip out of the raft. And so we learnt those whilst in the water, and the rapids weren't too tumultuous, perilous, but it was really good fun. The water it's probably one of the only places they were saying that where you could raft all year round, because the water was one of the warmest in New Zealand. And it wasn't that cold entirely, but when you plunge underneath it after every waterfall, you can feel it, and it definitely wakes you up, because I hadn't had my caffeine intake for for the morning. So it was almost like doing a cold water plunge at some points, and the instructor very much enjoyed dipping the raft in and out of the waterfall with my head underneath it, and that was very good fun from him. And so about half an hour into the rafting, we then descended on the mega waterfall, which he said that 90% of the time the raft does flip over, so there's a tactic where you have to curl yourself up into a ball, and your life jacket will bring you up against the surface. Obviously, if the raft is flipped entirely and you're underneath the raft, you'll have an air pocket, but you need to swim round it and get underneath it. And that all sounded fine so there's a safety officer who goes before you on these big drops, and he's in a kayak, and he did the big drop, and a good 5 minutes went past before he emerged from the water. And the instructor, I couldn't tell whether they were trying to kind of build suspense by acting like this doesn't happen all the time, or whether he was actually slightly concerned. But I think he was slightly concerned, because in the bus back they were talking about how he just couldn't seem to flip himself over in the kayak, which doesn't sound too safe to me, to put it mildly. So we had a good 5 minutes of waiting before the waterfall, but no, thankfully we managed to stay on the right side, not flip over, and I didn't have to do a cannonball under the water and try and rise to the surface, where I probably most likely would have hit my head on the bottom of the raft and then started panicking and flapping my arms about. But none of that, thankfully. I think my weight being at the rear of the boat managed to keep the raft from flipping on one's head. I mean, all of that junk in the trunk must come in handy at some point, hey folks. So yeah, but it was an amazing drop, adrenaline filled, great rush. And then he got us to start surfing on the raft as we were going down the rapids, and obviously we were up. I've done surfing before, but not on a raft, I guess you'd call it, not a raft boat, and obviously managed to fall backwards and almost tumble off the back of the raft. So that was always going to happen, and well, we were just expecting the inevitable. So laugh it off, get through it. Didn't try and stand up again, funny enough, but that was caught on camera, so that was brilliant. And it concluded with me going to the front and being dipped in more rapids as the front of the raft tilted forwards into these kind of archways of cold water, and the instructor was just going in and out of that cold water. So that was a great end to what was a really enjoyable hour and a half or so on the water. A really good start to the day, and then I relaxed in Rotorua, which is a very nice town. Did a little walk around the geothermal hazardous areas, which if you strayed off path, I mean, it looked like an absolute waste ground. I don't see why you would want to, but it seemed like the ground was very dangerous underneath, so it was you were very much instructed not to go astray from the path. So that was obviously followed with clarity and no objection. And then we concluded the day by doing a canopy walk in the redwood forest about 15 minutes outside of the town, which had been illuminated and was absolutely gorgeous. And as a group, there was 6 out of the 7 of us decided we were going to do this, and well, we had to wait 1 hour and 20 minutes to get in a queue to get onto this canopy walk, because they were reducing numbers to stop the damage to the trees, which was fair enough, but it was a very slow moving queue, and we got to know each other a bit better, us and the group, and then we walked amongst the treetops, which was it was very good, very impressive how they managed to get loads of lights set up there. They had a silver fern which was illuminated in bright green. Silver fern obviously being the leaf of New Zealand. I'm not sure what the leaf of England is, but you see that on the All Blacks rugby jerseys. Very cool leaf, to be fair. Obviously Canada has the maple leaf. I'm not sure what England's is. It's probably not even a leaf. It's probably an acorn or something. But oh no, the rose. Oh, that's a flower, isn't it? Well, it's close enough. Oh, and we had a war over it, so I guess it probably fits the bill. So that was very enjoyable. That lasted in about an hour, and then I went to get some dinner. Splashed out again. Bloody hell! It's getting that way at a smokehouse, and had my had a steak on the rocks. So I had a bit of New Zealand rump and 2 pieces of lamb on the cooked to my own well-doneness, cookedness, as I was the one in control of how cooked the steak was going to be. Bit of a cop-out, I think, when those things happen, but it's nice to be interactive and have a slab of heat to decide the fate of your meal, which was very good cuts of meat. So yeah, that was the day kind of rounded up, folks. Yeah, I definitely recommend whitewater rafting to anyone. It was one of the cheaper activities, coming in at around $130, which comes at about £65. But it was a very well-respected river. The Maori, it seemed like a very heavily invested Maori river, where the Maori would send off their fallen soldiers down the waterfall, and then after battles, the bodies would submerge at the bottom of the waterfall and be eaten by eels and decompose naturally that way. So we sent our guide said a prayer to the river, thanking it for its grace and keeping us in good health before we descended upon it, and got heavily washed up in its abundance of water. And it was a very, very good experience. Another solo experience which I thoroughly enjoyed, but yeah, we were only ones out there, so it kind of felt a bit private as well. And one of the good things again about going in the off season is that all the tourist activities continue to happen, but just less people do them. And I don't know whether the price changes, whether it gets cheaper, but to my knowledge, it probably doesn't. But yeah, if you want to do activities where you have that element of privacy and you're the only ones doing them, then I definitely recommend doing off seasons. If you like to be in places where tourism is in abundance and it's busy, and that's how you determine which restaurant you're going to, then go in the on season, it's called, or in the season. My piece of advice before we conclude this episode, folks, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me once again, and you'll hear from me, like always, in the next one. Goodbye.